Hennepin County is an official plain language organization dedicated to using clear communications that meet the needs of our residents and partners. This style of writing helps ensure that readers, regardless of literacy level or experience with a topic, can easily understand our information. And with the following tips, you can use plain language techniques to write more effective proposals. First, let's define plain language. A communication is in plain language if its wording, structure, and design are so clear that the intended readers can easily find what they need. Important information shouldn't be buried in long paragraphs of text. Next, readers should be able to understand what they find. That means avoiding the jargon and acronyms we all use in our day-to-day work. And then people need to be able to use that information to meet their needs. The key with this approach is to focus on the reader. Let's see what it looks like to write using plain language. This is the website homepage for the city of Lakewood, Colorado. It uses intuitive icons and simple, concise sentences, most starting with verbs. Get customer service, apply for a job, pay my bill. Visitors can quickly find where to go on this site. They don't need to know the names of city departments or understand how government works to get service. This example is from a booklet given to patients when they're released from Suburban Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland. The goal of the handout is to ensure patients have the information they need during their recovery. The language is conversational, written for patients instead of from the perspective of the hospital. Again, notice the verbs. Speak up, pay attention, educate yourself. Instead of long, complex sentences, they give readers short, clear actions. The writer also uses the personal pronoun you to talk directly to readers. You are a key part of your healthcare team. Notice how much more engaging that sounds than something like patients are a key part of their healthcare team. This next example is from Virgin Pulse, an online health and wellness program. The very first line is a simple, concise statement. Great relationships are built on honesty and trust. Nothing too complex here, nothing that will confuse readers. They format the key points so important information stands out, and they try to connect with readers by using a style that is less formal than a typical list of rules. Like this sentence, which feels like they're having a casual conversation. So how do you communicate using plain language techniques? You are more likely to have a well-written and successful proposal if your writing is clear, so we understand who you are and what you're planning to do. Concise, so important information about your work stands out. And your formatting should be scannable, so we can easily find the key information in your proposal. Let's dig into each of these. To make your text clear, start by using words your readers will understand, and avoid the jargon and acronyms you use with coworkers. The people who will review your proposal won't be as familiar with your work as you are, so they might not understand the technical words, that's the jargon, that experts in your field might use. Next, try to use active sentences where the subject of the sentence performs an action. They're usually more direct and easier to understand than passive sentences. For example, with an active sentence, you would write, "We provided interpreter services to 7 schools." That's clearer than the passive version, "Interpretive services were provided by us to 7 schools." Next, in most cases, contractions, like your instead of you are fine. They sound more conversational and help you connect with your readers. And finally, you want to avoid using your standard marketing language. Instead, you should write text that specifically addresses the requirements laid out in the request for proposals. Let's see what it looks like in practice. Here's an example from 500px, an online tool for photographers. This is just one small part of the terms and conditions for using their website. There's a lot of text here, but it basically comes down to 2 things. They can change the rules at any time, and there may be occasional service interruptions. With this version, they use legal and technical jargon, which is difficult to understand, but this company is aware of that. That's why they include plain language explanations of the legal terms and conditions. Here's how they explain it for the non-lawyers who actually use the site. Basically, if these terms change, we will notify you. As well, at times things can go wrong and the service may be interrupted. It's unlikely, but sometimes things can go really wrong. They recognize that if you want people to follow the guidelines, they need to understand them, so the company makes the explanation as clear as possible. Next, being concise removes non-essential information so that important details stand out. Start by only including what proposal reviewers need, nothing more. Anything extra competes with the core message. Next, use simple, short sentences, ideally fewer than 20 words per sentence. Longer than that makes it more challenging for readers. And break up your information into shorter paragraphs. Shorter sentences and paragraphs allow readers to quickly process the details and keep fewer facts in mind at one time. They also help make sure your most important information is easy to find. Let's see how being concise helps make information easier to read. This example is from Medicaid. The language is okay, but there's just too much of it. The reader has to work pretty hard to find the important stuff. And here's how they rewrote it. They changed quite a bit, but just having fewer words makes it easier to understand. Next, readers should be able to quickly scan the various sections of your application to find what they need. Organize and format your text so the key information stands out. That's the most important stuff that you really want reviewers to know about. It shouldn't be buried in the middle of a long paragraph where it might get lost. This letter is from the IRS informing taxpayers that they owe money. The most important information, in this case, the amount due, is really easy to find because it's on its own line in large, bold font. And they use headings that describe what readers will find in each section. Like this line, what you need to do immediately. Finally, if you have a list of goals or results, use key points or a numbered list to make them stand out from the rest of the text. For example, this paragraph about the dangers of lead in drinking water is formatted so it's easy to miss vital information. But breaking it into key points and using headings like children and adults makes the important details stand out. Let's see how being clear, concise, and scannable can work with a proposal. This is an example from an organization in Pennsylvania. It's the overview section describing who they are. Let's zoom in on the first paragraph. Instead of pages of description, they provide a short overview of the organization and its history. They didn't just copy and paste their promotional materials. Instead, they wrote something clear and concise to meet the needs of the proposal requirements. In the next two paragraphs, they describe who they serve, which effectively demonstrates their role in the community. Again, clear and concise. And they finish with an easy-to-scan overview of their recent work. They don't include all of their data. Reviewers don't need to know everything they've ever done. This proposal highlights the relevance information that shows they can do the work. Here's another example of a clear, concise, and scannable proposal. This one is from Riverside County in California. This screen shows the goals and deliverables part of the submission. Not only is it relatively short, but it's formatted to make it easy for readers to find and understand who the organization serves and what they plan to do if their proposal is funded. Again, clear language, concise word count, and scannable formatting. Let's look at a few final tips that can help you write a more effective proposal. First, make sure you give yourself enough time. Plan ahead by looking at the application questions, then give yourself at least a few days to write and edit your proposal. Next, while working on your proposal, pay special attention to the evaluation criteria. Don't just copy and paste your marketing language into the application. Instead, your submission should be written specifically to match the criteria outlined in the request for proposals. When filling out your application, order the information to match the order listed in the request for proposals. This will make it easier for reviewers to verify that you meet the qualifications and can do the work. And finally, edit your proposal before you submit it to ensure there are no errors. This is also where you can make final improvements to make sure your proposal is clear, concise, and scannable. If you need help, Grammarly and Hemingway are just two of the many online tools you can use to review your writing. If you want to learn more about contracting with Hennepin County or about plain language, check out these resources.